My name is Amelia, and for the past 10 years, I've been a stay-at-home wife in a small town outside of Portland, Oregon. I married Caleb when I was 25, swept off my feet by his charm and promises of forever. We had a son, Ethan, who's now 7, and we moved in with his widowed mother, Margaret, because she insisted she couldn't live alone. Back then, I believed in family, in sacrifice. I thought love meant giving until there was nothing left. But now, every day felt like I was disappearing. Caleb came home drunk most nights, reeking of whiskey and resentment. He'd barely look at me, let alone speak kindly. His words cut sharper than knives. You've let yourself go. You're just a housewife. Margaret, always loud from her wheelchair in the hallway, would bark orders like I was some unpaid maid. And Ethan, my baby boy, had started mimicking them, rolling his eyes, calling me names, wishing another woman was his mother. I stood in my kitchen one night, the sound of shouting, toys clattering, and tears all around me. And for the first time, I asked myself, is this the life I gave everything for? It was a Tuesday, ordinary by any standard, but everything inside me felt like it was about to rupture. Caleb had come home later than usual, stumbling through the door with that same blank, intoxicated stare. I had just taken off my apron, thinking maybe, just maybe, I'd help him out of his coat like I used to, like a wife who still cared. But he shoved me hard and growled, "Don't touch me. Go back to your damn kitchen, Amelia." I froze. From the bathroom, Margaret's shrill voice echoed, "Amelia, no toilet paper again. Do I have to do everything myself?" At that exact moment, Ethan tripped over one of his toy trucks and burst into tears, screaming, "Stupid toy! I'm gonna smash it!" Then he looked up at me with tear-streaked cheeks and spat, "You're a bad mom. I want Miss Lauren to be my mom instead." Miss Lauren, his art teacher. Young, sweet, always dolled up with her perfect smile. He had said it before, but this time, he meant it. My son actually wished another woman was his mother. And you know what I did? Nothing. I stood there, completely numb, like a ghost watching a house burn. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked to the hallway closet, took a roll of toilet paper to Margaret, helped Ethan to his feet, and went to the kitchen where dinner was getting cold. Caleb stumbled past me again, scowling. "Where's my dinner?" I said flatly, "In the kitchen. You can serve yourself." His mother rolled out of the bathroom, eyes narrowed. "You've gotten bold, haven't you? My son works all day while you lay around at home. You're useless." I turned to her, slowly and calmly, and said something I never thought I'd say. "Then maybe you should tell your son to divorce me and marry someone more useful." She froze. Caleb looked up from the couch, his brows furrowed. "What's your problem, Amelia?" I didn't respond. That night I didn't eat. I just cleaned, one hand wiping dishes, the other steadying my shaking body. It was well past midnight when I finished. The house was spotless, but inside me, something had snapped. I couldn't take another day of pretending this was okay. I couldn't keep giving everything and getting spat on in return. So I picked up my phone and did something I never thought I'd do. I called Lucas, my childhood friend, the one person who had never judged me, who had always been there in quiet, respectful silence. He picked up on the first ring. "Amelia," I whispered, "can we talk?" He didn't ask why. He didn't press. He just said, "I'll come get you." And that was the moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday, ordinary by any standard, but everything inside me felt like it was about to rupture. Caleb had come home later than usual, stumbling through the door with that same blank, intoxicated stare. I had just taken off my apron, thinking maybe, just maybe, I'd help him out of his coat like I used to, like a wife who still cared. But he shoved me hard and growled, "Don't touch me. Go back to your damn kitchen, Amelia." I froze. From the bathroom, Margaret's shrill voice echoed, "Amelia, no toilet paper again. Do I have to do everything myself?" At that exact moment, Ethan tripped over one of his toy trucks and burst into tears, screaming, "Stupid toy! I'm gonna smash it!" Then he looked up at me with tear-streaked cheeks and spat, "You're a bad mom. I want Miss Lauren to be my mom instead." Miss Lauren, his art teacher. Young, sweet, always dolled up with her perfect smile. He had said it before, but this time he meant it. My son actually wished another woman was his mother. And you know what I did? Nothing. I stood there, completely numb, like a ghost watching a house burn. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked to the hallway closet, took a roll of toilet paper to Margaret, helped Ethan to his feet, and went to the kitchen where dinner was getting cold. Caleb stumbled past me again, scowling. "Where's my dinner?" I said flatly. "In the kitchen. You can serve yourself." His mother rolled out of the bathroom, eyes narrowed. "You've gotten bold, haven't you? My son works all day while you lay around at home. You're useless." I turned to her, slowly and calmly, and said something I never thought I'd say. "Then maybe you should tell your son to divorce me and marry someone more useful." She froze. Caleb looked up from the couch, his brows furrowed. "What's your problem, Amelia?" I didn't respond. That night I didn't eat. I just cleaned, one hand wiping dishes, the other steadying my shaking body. It was well past midnight when I finished. The house was spotless, but inside me, something had snapped. I couldn't take another day of pretending this was okay. I couldn't keep giving everything and getting spat on in return. So I picked up my phone and did something I never thought I'd do. I called Lucas, my childhood friend, the one person who had never judged me, who had always been there in quiet, respectful silence. He picked up on the first ring. "Amelia," I whispered, "can we talk?" He didn't ask why. He didn't press. He just said, "I'll come get you." And that was the moment everything changed. When Lucas pulled up outside my house, I was already standing on the porch with just one suitcase. I hadn't told Caleb. I hadn't even written a note. I just left. He didn't call. Not that night. Not the next morning. Lucas drove me to his lake cabin 2 hours away, a quiet place tucked between the pines. The moment we stepped inside, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. For the first time in years, there was no yelling, no demands, no sharp glances or cold shoulders. Just silence. Peaceful, liberating silence. I didn't say much that first night. I just sat by the window, watching the moon reflect on the lake, while Lucas quietly made us tea. Then, in the dim glow of the lamp, he asked, "Do you want to go away for a while?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" He looked at me gently. "Leave the country. Just for a bit, clear your head. Breathe." I hesitated. "Can't." "Ethan," Lucas reached across the table, his voice soft but firm. "Has a father. He has a grandmother. But who do you have?" That question sliced through me. I had no one. No one who truly saw me, heard me, cared if I disappeared. The next morning, I booked a ticket with Lucas. Destination Costa Rica. He had a business partner there and said we could stay with him for a while. Just 2 friends on a trip. Nothing more. And yet my heart was pounding like I was running away with a secret lover. On the flight, I kept expecting someone to stop me. A call from Caleb, a message from Ethan, a dramatic scene at the gate. But there was nothing. No one came. And maybe that hurt the most. We arrived in San Jose just after sunset. Warm air. Lush green everywhere. The scent of rain still lingering in the breeze. Lucas took my hand to help me out of the taxi, and I didn't let go. Over the next few days, I remembered what it felt like to laugh. I walked barefoot on the beach. I ate too much fresh mango. I danced to music I didn't understand and watched the stars until my neck hurt. I started to feel alive again. But then, on the 6th day, while we were watching the sunrise on the cliffs of Manuel Antonio, Lucas turned to me and asked a question I wasn't ready for. "Amelia, do you think you'll go back?" My breath caught in my throat. I had no answer. Because I didn't know what home was anymore. The morning Lucas asked me if I would go back, I smiled. But it wasn't real. I stood there on the cliff, wind in my hair, staring into the golden horizon, pretending I was brave, pretending I had moved on. But inside, I was unraveling. How do you explain the guilt of leaving your own child behind? Even if that child had rejected you, insulted you, replaced you with another woman. I had spent a decade giving every piece of myself to my family, and now, I didn't even know who I was without them. But Costa Rica. Its warmth, its rhythm, its unapologetic freedom. It stirred something inside me. I started waking up without dread. I stopped checking my phone, expecting angry texts. I walked the streets by myself, smiling at strangers, tasting street food, buying earrings I didn't need but that made me feel pretty again. Lucas never pushed, he just walked beside me. One night, we sat by a bonfire on the beach. Waves crashing, stars blinking overhead. I finally opened up. I feel like a terrible mother. Lucas didn't interrupt. Left Ethan. I didn't even say goodbye. What kind of mother does that? You're human, he said quietly. Heard humans break when they're pushed too far. His words hit something buried deep. I wasn't evil. I wasn't cold. I was tired. I was broken. I was done with being everyone's emotional punching bag. For years, I had confused endurance with love. I thought that if I suffered silently, it made me stronger. But it didn't. It just made me invisible. And now that I was finally visible to myself, I couldn't go back to being erased. That night, as I lay in bed in the guest room of our host's cottage, I stared at the ceiling and whispered, I don't belong in that house anymore. It was more than just a realization. It was a vow. I wasn't going back to beg for my husband's affection. I wasn't going back to plead with my son to love me. I had tried. I had stayed. I had bent until I shattered. Now, it was their turn to see what life looked like without me. 3 weeks flew by like a dream. When I boarded the plane back to the US, I didn't feel sadness. I felt certainty. I had made up my mind. I wasn't going back to being just someone's wife, or someone's mother. I was going to be me again. When we landed, Lucas looked at me with a quiet smile. You okay? I nodded. I think I finally am. We didn't speak about what would happen next. There was no need. I knew I had to go back. Not to that house, but to face the life I had abandoned for too long. I rented a small apartment near downtown. It wasn't fancy, just a one-bedroom with squeaky floors and sunlight that spilled through the curtains each morning. But it was mine. For the first time in a decade, I had a front door that opened to peace, not criticism. I began looking for jobs. My resume was painfully thin, just a bachelor's degree and 2 years of office work from over 10 years ago. Most places didn't even respond. Still, I kept applying. In the meantime, I'd meet Lucas and his adopted son, Owen, for coffee or to walk around the park. Owen started calling me Mom, without anyone telling him to. At first, it caught me off guard. But then it started to heal something deep inside me. A wound I didn't know was still open. Then one morning, my phone rang. A small marketing firm had seen my application and asked me to come in for an interview. My hands were shaking when I hung up. This was it. My first chance. I stood in front of the mirror in a navy blue blazer I had borrowed from Lucas' cousin. Light makeup. Hair tied back. And for the first time in a long while, I saw a woman who looked capable. At the office, I answered every question with honesty, not fluff. When they asked about my 10-year gap, I looked them straight in the eye and said, I was raising a family. I learned time management, negotiation, emotional resilience, and how to multitask under extreme pressure. You won't find those skills on a degree, but they're real. The interviewer smiled. We'll call you. And they did. 2 days later, I was offered a position as an assistant marketing coordinator. Modest pay, entry level, but it felt like I had just won the lottery. That night, I sat on my apartment balcony with takeout Thai food and a glass of wine. Lucas called. How'd it go? I laughed. Got it. And in that moment, I realized, this wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning. Every morning, I woke up to the sound of city life humming outside my window. I'd stretch, brew my coffee, and remind myself this is real. This is mine. The job wasn't glamorous. I handled scheduling, sent emails, organized meetings. But every task felt like a brick, rebuilding the self I had buried long ago. Each day, I stood a little taller, spoke a little clearer, smiled a little more. I stopped shrinking myself. I started walking with purpose. On weekends, I'd go to the farmer's market with Owen and Lucas. Owen would run between the stalls, his laughter echoing like music. Sometimes people mistook me for his mom, and I didn't correct them, because in so many ways, I was becoming one. One evening, Lucas and I were walking home after dinner when he said, "You know, I don't think you realize how much you've changed." I looked at him, surprised. Changed how? You glow now, Amelia. Not from makeup. Not from Costa Rica. From finally living your truth. His words stayed with me. I had changed. Not into someone new, but into who I was always meant to be. I started setting boundaries. Small at first. When Caleb called to ask where Ethan's backpack was, I simply replied, "Ask your son." When Margaret tried to guilt me through voicemail, I didn't even listen to the end. I blocked her number. I owed them nothing anymore, and Ethan, he started calling too. At first, it was distant, awkward. But over time, his tone softened. One day, he whispered through the phone, "Mom, I miss you." I held back tears and simply said, "I know." I didn't rush back. I didn't lose myself again in guilt or motherly obligation. I gave him space to feel. I gave me space to heal. At work, my manager noticed my drive. She began assigning me more responsibility. By the end of 6 months, I was leading campaigns and mentoring interns. They started looking at me like I had answers. And the wild part? I did. Every night, I'd come home to my little apartment, light a candle, and feel peace. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. I didn't need anyone to complete me. I didn't crave validation. I didn't check my reflection hoping someone else would approve. I loved myself now. And in that love, I found freedom. A full year had passed since I walked away from the house I once called home. One quiet afternoon, I was sitting in the audience at Owen's school for a parent-teacher event. The room was buzzing with voices, children showing off their projects, teachers smiling politely. Then I heard it, a soft voice that froze me in place. "Mom." I turned. It was Ethan. He was standing beside Caleb, a little taller, a little thinner, holding a paper model in his hand. His eyes searched mine, full of hesitation, and something that looked like regret. I didn't say anything. I simply turned back to Owen, who was tugging at my sleeve. "Mom, my teacher wants you to come speak." And so I walked to the front of the room and introduced myself. "I'm Owen's mom. And I'm proud of him every single day." I felt Caleb's eyes burning into my back, but I didn't flinch. I was done living for someone else's approval. After the event, as Owen and I made our way to the car, Ethan called out, "Mom, wait." I stopped. He ran up to me, tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean everything I said before. I just didn't understand." My heart squeezed. "I know," I said softly. "But sometimes sorry comes too late. I still love you, Ethan, I always will, but I'm not the same mom I used to be." He reached out to hug me, and I let him. Just for a moment. Then I stepped back. Caleb approached, trying to catch my eye. "Can we talk?" I shook my head. "There's nothing left to say, Caleb. We both made choices. And I made mine." He opened his mouth to argue, but then saw Lucas walking up beside me, holding Owen's hand. I think that's when he realized I wasn't coming back. Not in any way that mattered. Later that night, I stood on the balcony of my apartment. The city lights sparkled below like stars fallen to earth. Lucas brought out 2 mugs of tea and joined me. We didn't say much. He didn't need to ask if I was okay. He already knew. Because now I was. I wasn't the scared woman who cleaned floors at midnight, praying for love. I wasn't the invisible wife, or the forgotten mother. I wasn't waiting for anyone to rescue me. I had rescued myself. I turned to Lucas, looked him in the eyes, and whispered, "Thank you for never pushing. For just being there." He smiled. "I didn't want to fix you. I just wanted to remind you you've always been whole." I leaned my head against his shoulder, and in the quiet, I knew this was my life now. Chosen, not trapped. Real, not forced, and beautiful. Flaws and all. Looking back, I spent so many years convincing myself that love meant sacrifice. That if I gave more, endured more, bent further, it would all be worth it. But it wasn't. Love doesn't ask you to disappear. Love doesn't grow in silence and resentment. I learned the hardest, most beautiful truth of all: you are allowed to choose yourself. Leaving wasn't easy. It meant walking away from the identity I clung to for a decade. Wife, mother, caregiver. It meant facing judgment, guilt, and loneliness. But beyond that pain there was freedom. I stopped existing for others and started living for me. And when I did, everything changed. My strength wasn't in staying. It was in walking away with dignity and rediscovering the woman I was always meant to be. If you're in a place where you feel invisible, unloved, or taken for granted, please hear this: you matter. Your dreams, your voice, your peace, they matter. And it's never, ever too late to start again.